welcoming back to the studio now. Moody's has estimated the infrastructure gap in Nigeria to be at 3 trillion naira, which is 6 times the size of its annual GDP. The consequences of this is obvious in the struggle to create employment opportunities, foster industrial development, among others, which is why the federal government has embraced the public-private partnership approach to bridge this gap. Well, to speak to this issue, we have a market and financial analyst who is also the Chief Executive Officer of Finance with Mukhtar, Mr. Mohammed Mukhtar, joining us to discuss this. Good morning, Mr. Mohammed.
My pleasure being here this morning.
Good to have you. Well,
Thank you.
When you hear this figure, $3 trillion to bridge the gap, are you scared?
Naturally, you should be scared, but when it comes to infrastructure, it's not a one-off program, so it's a continuous program. So you see those 3 trillions, they say to bridge the gap. They won't tell you, but when you go detail the report, it means bridging the gap in the next 3 years, or maybe in the next 4 years, or in the next 5 years. So we're not just looking at 0.3 trillion to us immediately, and that will solve our problem. Because when it comes to infrastructure, you should know that infrastructure is not a program that you will just solve in a year. Some of the infrastructure can take 1 to 2 or 3 years, and technology evolve as these infrastructures.
So what you did, that was a wow project the year before. In the next couple of years would not be a wow project.
Would not be a wow project.
Yeah, I guess that's why the federal government embraced the PPP. So we have Infraco, which is supposed to start implementation in this quarter, the third quarter of 2021. What do you think should be the first few steps of Infraco as they begin implementation in this third quarter?
It's better late than never. That's what I would say. And I think it's something the government have considered the idea for a very long time. Finally, they have the political will or the economical will to come up with it. What do I expect them to do? I don't expect so much in the first quarter, because most of those companies that have been given these duties still have to gather their data, still have to look. You should know that when it comes to infrastructure, Nigeria doesn't have the manpower to do some of this infrastructure work. We need to depend on foreign partnership, even despite the public-private partnership. So I showed that they're working towards getting foreign partner, looking at where the infrastructure, and you know, it's going to be public-private partnership. Yes. It's not just going to be where government just want to put in money. So they want to look at the profitability of what the infrastructural project they want to look into. If you look at the infrastructural project, it's a different profit when you look at Lagos-Ibadan road infrastructural program. If you do public-private partnership with Ilori Mina Road, so you need to look at that also. So they also will be looking at things like that to say, okay, which one will be more profitable and which one will be more economically valuable in the long run for the economy. So those are part of what they will be doing now.
So prioritizing
you have to prioritize
based on profitability.
Yes, it's all about public-private partnership. It's all about profitability.
Yeah, but what do you think are the downsides to this partnership?
Well, the downside has to come with what I call variation in terms of figure. But like I said, technology evolves, and no matter how much you try to put into an infrastructure, after some time, evolving technology tends to change everything. So there will be a downside. It could also be a downside in the area of finance. Also, we need to look at it, especially when you look at we are grappling with a lot of FX challenges as a nation. And most of these projects are not going to be reside here. We're not going to be paying them in Naira. We're depending getting them in dollars. So that could be one of the major challenges. And the government is still
struggling to also get revenue
at this time. So it's going to be a huge challenge, especially in the area of FX.
Yeah, so the federal government has approved the selection of 4 asset managers, you know, for this infrastructure funds. So part of what is expected of them is to raise funds. The federal government has brought in a 1 trillion naira seed capital, and then they're supposed to raise funds. What are they supposed to do? How are they supposed to raise this fund?
Well, that's what I say. They have to go into there, but they have to look at the kind of infrastructure they want to embark upon. They want to look at the road. Is it road you want to do? Is it power you want to do? Is it has to do with ICT type of infrastructure? So they really need to, is it the rail, transportation infrastructure? Are you going to look at the port on how to improve business in the port? Are you going to look at the road network? Are you going to say, look, we can do a better job if we handle this road? A lot they need. And unfortunately for them, most of all this, what we call juicy infrastructural projects are being embarked upon between the government and the Chinese already. So it's going to be a huge challenge for them to really pick up on a project that will be profitable and economical in the long run.
Still be funded.
But what are the avenues available to the private sector?
A lot, huge. We can see what Dangote is doing.
The one with the credit scheme, infrastructure credit scheme.
Is doing. You just need to go in Lagos here. You just need to look from you go towards the Apapa or Roshoku axis. You see the kind of road that Dangote has been able to come up with in that place. So you need to look at that also, and you begin to say, look, these roads are not just going to be the normal road. They're going to be roads that won't lasting. But again, we need to reject it and realize that some of this government need to also look at their side and realize that maintenance is always the challenges when it comes to road infrastructure.
Right.
So are you just doing those things just for them to build, operate, and maintain? And how long will they build and operate and maintain? So I don't know what those agreements are like in terms of tax bracket. So, but when you want to do build, operate, and maintain, that means your tax credit will be large because you're talking of maintenance of the road. Because definitely, putting road is not a challenge. It's maintaining those roads for the long run. Like Dangote told us that his road is going to last about 40 to 50 years. You won't have it. But we know that you have to do a lot of maintenance with the type of movement, unless we get it right in the railway sector like we're doing now, so that most of these heavy-duty products, cars, duties, goods, are not being moved towards those roads.
Get off the roads.
So then you can say it would last well. But my main challenge with it is good, but you seem to see that only one company that since government seems ready to do business, it just happen to be Dangote. Is it that other companies are not coming up? That is what this infrastructure is.
Another thing now is has it been made attractive enough for private sector?
You see, when it comes to all the road that Dangote is embarking upon, you could realize that roads that make sense to his own business. You look at from the port, coming down, bringing all his own goods and services. Those are what he's not thinking of the Lekki because of the refinery that's going to be located there. So he's looking at where are economical variable to his business. So that's what I say. The long and short of this will definitely, at the end of the day, end up in terms of how economical variable it is. Because, again, when you talk of power projects, if you decide to embark on a power project, that is largely capital intensive. That's not something you can finish in the next 1 to 2 years. How many of them are ready to tie their capitals to that long term? And they still have the fear, because infrastructure has course coming like a vehicle from the Central Bank of Nigeria. It has not had a serious legislature in terms of the National Assembly, which means it's open to policy somersaults. So that is another challenge.
And you know, like you mentioned, the federal government does some projects with the Chinese company, then you have the tax credit scheme, and now you have Infraco. Aren't they going to clash at some point? Because, okay, like the one you talked about, Dangote, in fact, at the last FEC meeting, Dangote was just given a set of road to work on under the tax scheme. And this is close to what Infraco is supposed to be doing.
Yes, Infraco will not definitely come up on stream immediately. And remember, as like I said, they've been trying to go to this project for a very long time. Dangote is taking advantage of that and beginning to look at the roads that has to do with his business. Now, Infraco itself is going to be like an infrastructural bank or whatever you call it. It's going to be a huge company. It's going to be private sector driven. So they also will come up. Remember, like I said, new technology are evolving. That is what I feel Infraco should be looking. Because for me to come and do business with you, you must have a superior technology to what I'm doing business with. So for the privates, for this Infraco to attract the kind of investment, we need to see them say, okay, we are backing up on the rail line from Lagos to Calabar. We are going to give you good rail, 21st century type of train. We're going to come up with this, with that. So why we partner? It's the partnership that really matter. Because we're seeing that challenge in the power sector. It's not because the power sector cannot work, but the technical partner does not have the indigenous partner and the technical partner have not been able to come together. And then when it comes to funding, now, you're telling federal sectors to go and get this money. They are going to get money from investors. No investor is going to give you your money just to wait for you to. You have to come up with a plan. How long will I have to wait for me to begin to recoup my investment? How much? So all those are what's going to play out in this project at the long run. But for now, I think Infraco will come up, but it will come up gradually. The credit tax scheme will still be more attractive to more industry. Because now you're seeing Dangote. I can assure you very soon, WAMCO will want to take up the one in their own axis.
I do hope so, because it seems it's just Dangote. Can't we have more participation from the private sector? Yeah. Even if they are not as big as the likes of Dangote, 2 or 3 companies can come together take up a project, and then
something.
That's what it's supposed to be. But you can see that if you look at if you go to I'm not meant to mention names. If you go to Ajose Adoegu, you look at the runabouts. Some of them are being maintained by some of the Nigerian banks. You go to Under Falomo, you see that place is being maintained by a Nigerian bank. So if you look at that as a whole, some of them are taking little projects along their own axis of business, maybe through their headquarters or through one of their major branches or where they do business. We've seen also estates come up in Lagos to take upon a project that has to do with their own estate road, taxing themselves that, look, we need to do. Those are all both private partnership. But you don't see that said in the news because it's not as huge an impact economically like what you see in this Infraco. And the beauty about Infraco is going to create a lot of jobs, because this is the way to go when it comes to economic building, on trying to diversify your economy or trying to create employment. We are going to see an attack from the bottom up approach. That's what drags people out of poverty instead of the up to down approach. The bottom up approach is that we are going to get a lot of Nigerians being employed on most of all these projects. So it's going to create a snowball effect in virtually every sector of our economy, which is good for us.
But when you say we're going to get a whole lot of Nigerians being employed, do we have the skill set? Because, I mean, is it just the menial little jobs? When we talk of the experts, then we now have to import the human resource.
So we're still sending money out.
It's not too much of a problem when you bring in the foreigners or the expatriates to take over. It's more of a problem if after 3, 4, 5, 10 years, you can still train Nigerians to
which is what has been happening anyway.
So that has to do, that's what I said, that has to do with the contractual agreements. The build and maintain. If you are telling me, look, we are going to use you as a technical partner, we want you to come up here. For the next 10 years, you are going to be with us. And at the front of that, you are going to be training others of our Nigerians to take over this job in the next 10 to 15 years. If you put that in the agreement, it works. But when you look at most of the projects that we are doing here now, presently now, it's more or less like the 25 years plan, and they seems to be like going to be there forever. And after it's getting to that 25 years, they come up with something else to want to extend it. There are a lot of projects I want to mention that are having those issues now. So what they need to do is to put it there and make sure that most Nigerians are being trained. You saw that happen when we said that, okay, the Niger Delta region, when they came with the amnesty program, the oil companies were sending some Nigerians to go and learn welding and other things and then come back, and some of them were being employed. Those are the type of schemes that we need to adopt when it comes to Infraco. They must also, that's what I'm saying, we must look at new technology, and we need to build our manpower. And so Infraco should not just come in as just a vehicle just to drive infrastructure. They should also have a vehicle to train those people to take over those things. So that's why I said I expect that it will be involved, especially when it's driven by private sector.
But do you see Infraco taking advantage of the equities market at some point?
Well, the equity market, it depends on what project they are bringing. They could come in to get borrowing through the bond sector. They'll come in to get borrowing through other means that they want to do. But as Infraco, as a company being listed, I don't see that happening anytime soon. But the good thing is that most of those behind Infracos are those that play the equity market. So which makes it that they will see the value in terms of the equity market, trying to bring Infraco there. Because if there's any area Nigeria has any challenges, it has to do with infrastructural gap. It's huge.
Yes.
And by the day, it's getting huger by the day.
Yeah.
If a country like the United States of America is putting on so much into their infrastructural development, that is one of the cardinal problems that the current Joe Biden is pushing the legislators to approve for them. That tells you that in terms of infrastructure, technology evolves over time, and you keep on improving upon it. If Infraco doesn't start immediately, if they don't start handling any project now, by next year, in terms of the way we are going technologically, you could be thinking of another means of doing that same route. We never knew that you could do roads with cement and other things that are going to last. Dangote have started it. Somebody can come up with a better innovation that's going to help.
So what about the consumer? Should they be thinking, okay, now when the private sector takes over, we're going to be paying tolls, or
That's
you know?
Of course, of course.
But there should be other means of them making money, not just the tolling.
No, you see, when it comes to that, you know, in developed nations of the world, you have an option. If you want to go through tolling, you go through tolling. That will be easier for you, to be faster for you to go through that. Then, if you want to do it professionally, but the challenge we have in Nigeria, you just need to look at the Lekki toll gate issues and realize that sometimes we think about the profit, just the profit. Because the challenge is that in things like that, you have to develop the link routes. The link routes needs to be developed. So that if I don't want to pay toll, I could go through the link route. It could be longer for me, but that's what I want to do.
Right.
So we must also look at that also, because even when you're talking of profit, there's where it is social corporate responsibility that you need to embark about it. Because the whole idea is all about the people. It's all about development. It's all about the economy. So it shouldn't all be about profit. But in Nigeria, the cover is always there. Profit first, then maybe later on we'll begin to
Yes, because I wonder how we will be able to, manage it so that even though we are getting a good thing, but it's not profit first, without too much interference from the government.
From the government,
Because like you
yeah.
mentioned the power sector earlier, one of the issues with the privatization with the power sector, they say is government interference. Government is still dictating the price and all that.
No,
So
but
I
we-
don't know
no
how we can
business in
balance
business.
this.
With this one, you see, the CBN is the one putting the first sort of money. They are investing into it. So 1 trillion. Private sector is investing towards it. So, but like I said, let them begin to think about the long-term profit that will come in instead of the short-term profit.
Yes.
So then again, that all depends on where you are getting the fund from. Are you getting it from the long-term area, or are you getting it from a short-term? So depends on where you're getting your fund from, because you need to pay for your fund.
Yes,
Exactly.
nothing is free. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed, and sharing your thoughts on us
Thank
with
you.
us on bridging the infrastructure gap in Nigeria, especially as INFACO begins implementation this
Rocco,
quarter.
can't wait for it to start.
Yeah. Mr. Mukhtar
Thank you.
Mohammed is the CEO of Finance with Mukhtar, and he shared his thoughts with us. We'll just